Our next speaker, Etienne Vassiliadis, is going to tell us about a new natural cereal born from a combination of durum wheat and wild barley. And I'm delighted to say that we'll be able to enjoy some samples as we break for coffee. Tritordeum flour can be used in a wide range of breads. It is not genetically modified, but is a natural crop. Etienne believes that it offers several health benefits, which he will highlight. Etienne, bonjour, bienvenue. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and then Tritordeum. Please welcome Etienne. Thank you.
Alright, good morning everyone. So before I start my presentation, just a few words about myself. I've been involved in different positions, mainly in R&D in the last 10 years. The most relevant one in CSM, bakery supplies. And I've joined Agrasys, which is a Spanish company now dedicated to the introduction of Tritordeum worldwide. So I'm the BDM of Agrasys. And I will try to give you today a very general highlight on what is Tritordeum. To be honest, I could spend the whole day speaking about it because there are so many aspects that we could focus on. But yeah, I will try to give you a very general outlook. So first of all, we'll speak about what is Tritordeum, why it was created, a bit the history behind it. Try to situate it in the genealogy tree of cereals. Then I will focus on nutritional properties and let you know what we are doing nowadays on that aspect. I will mention briefly the value chain for you to understand how we work. Price positioning, also for you to understand where Tritordeum is situated. We are going to speak about organoleptic properties, and I will let you be the judge if you like it or not by trying the breads that we prepared for you today. I will speak briefly about ingredients, applications, and very important declarations, of course. And yeah, we'll make a summary on the benefits. Oops, I think I went too far. So Tritordeum, it's a new cereal. So it's not an ancient grain, which are very popular nowadays. It's really the opposite of that, because it was created 30 years ago with the idea to bring some agronomic characteristics of cereal like barley into durum wheat. So the idea was to bring, for example, rusticity in the field, but without losing on the yield, on the good yields that we have in durum wheat. So that was the primary idea. But from this, when they started to work on that project, which was originally a scientific project with no commercial view on it, they realized that they had a crop which had a good look on the field and that could allow to make bread out of it. So yeah, we have a trademark. The name of the crop is Tritordeum. So again, it is not wheat, it's a new hybrid. It's an interspecies hybrid between durum wheat and barley. And the same scientists that worked on this project in the 70s decided to create a company, Agrasys, to try to commercialize this cereal. So they bought back the exclusive rights of commercialization to the research center in Spain. And they have been now since 2013, so it's quite new in the market. They have been dedicated 95% of their time to introduce that cereal. We have other specialty crops as well in the pipeline, but today we are focusing on Tritordeum. So we have a team of 14 people located in Spain, dedicated to that cereal. We grow it in Spain today, in Italy. Now we started to grow it in the south of France and in Turkey as well. Our idea, to be very clear, is try to introduce it here in the UK. We are actually this year going to make some trials as well on the field. Although the varieties that we have bred in Spain, we think are not adapted to the UK weather. But we have a lot of new lines in the pipeline that we are going to test. That we are already testing in France, that we are testing, that we will test this year in the UK. So as we said before, it's not a GMO. I could not explain. I could explain to you the techniques used, but we don't have enough time. But if you want more information, I could let you know during the break or send you information. So that's a bit the history. The first cross was managed in 1977. I mean, when you want to cross two different species, it's not an easy exercise. The first cross that was managed actually between two species of cereals was in the case of Triticale, which was created 100 years ago. Triticale is a cross between durum wheat and rye in that case. So the cross was allowed because of the genetic distance between those two cereals. Actually, the next cereal that is closest to durum wheat is barley. This is why barley could be crossed with durum wheat, but not any kind of barley. We had to go, or the scientists had to go look for the sub-variety of barley which allowed the cross. And this sub-variety, they found it in Chile and Argentina. So it's not a barley that is known to us, let's say, in Europe. The company was created in 2006, although commercialization started in Spain in 2013. So we created really a new value chain looking at existing value chains, but in our model we try to really close the circle. So we have a production, we have a milling of the grain to transform into flour, and then we sell on the open market. But for you to understand, for those who know, Tritordeum is not it's not a hybrid seed. It's a hybrid crop, but not a hybrid seed, which means that we have any farmer that has Tritordeum in his hand is able, when he keeps grain, to plant it in the field and get again Tritordeum. So we need to put in place a licensing system to try to keep control over this crop. Okay. So we launched it in Spain, Italy first, then we moved to other markets, and today, of course, we are looking at the UK to introduce it. So for you, very briefly, if we look at the genealogy tree of cereals, all cereals that we eat today are hybrids. I think consumers don't know that, most consumers don't know it, and they are a bit afraid of the word hybrid, but durum wheat is a hybrid as well as bread wheat. As you see here, Triticale was created by crossing durum wheat with rye, and in the case of Tritordeum was with this specific sub-variety of Tritordeum chilense. Our bread wheat is as well an hexaploid plant, which is a cross between Triticum turgidum, which is a durum wheat, and an ancestral cereal, Aeglops starchy. There's one important point here on this slide, which I will mention later, is about oops, this is to go forward, sorry. There's the pointer. You see here the genome that you have from the different cereals. The D genome, actually, that we find in our bread wheat is the one that is coding for the proteins of the gluten that make gluten, that give intolerance to gluten to people that are celiacs, for instance. So in the case of Tritordeum, like in the case of Triticale, or even in the case of durum wheat, we have a drastic reduction in those immunogenic peptides that we find in gluten. So this is one of the important characteristics that we will highlight later in the case of Tritordeum. So this is just a picture to give you an idea of how the grains look like from those different crosses. Actually, I have a sample of grain if you want to have a look at it later. I brought it from Spain. But the grain is very elongated, it's much smaller, so of course when you mill it, you get a different result in terms of ash content, fiber content, etc. That's why the nutritional characteristics are different from a standard bread wheat. Although Tritordeum has a vitrosity which is between durum wheat and bread wheat, it behaves in milling like a bread wheat. So if we look at nutritional properties, of course it's always difficult to show data because you can ask me which wheat are you looking at? Are you looking at pure varieties or blends of different wheats? So here in this case we took a wheat that we found, a commercial wheat, let's say, which is probably a blend of different varieties of wheats. But yeah, it's to give you an idea a bit, to to compare Tritordeum with the standard bread wheat. So we have a good content of protein actually. Today, to let you know, we have 2 commercial varieties of Tritordeum, which we always sell as a blend of the 2 varieties. Of course, it's difficult for us having only 2 varieties to have a standard quality all year long for all our customers. So we use those 2 varieties. We have several lots actually that we select, but we separate by quality, and we make homogeneous lots using those qualities. But of course, it's much more difficult than standard bread wheat. Important aspect is the gluten. So it's a cereal containing gluten, so be careful, it's not a gluten-free cereal. But in the case of the gluten, if we look really at the different fractions of gluten, so gliadins, glutenins, and those peptides which are causing intolerance for celiac disease, for people that have celiac disease, we have a drastic reduction. And as I told you, it's because we don't have the D genome in Tritordeum. So we have clear evidences biochemically, and later I will come back on it. We have been doing as well in the last 2 years trials on humans. If we look at the fiber content, so here I'm comparing obviously, this is flour. I'm not speaking about the grain, I'm speaking about flours. I'm comparing flours which have been milled at the same extraction, okay? So here we are speaking about an extraction of around 72 to 74%. I mean, we have high amount of fiber, high amount of fatty acids, and this is very understandable because the shape of the grain is different. The proportion of the germ in the grain is higher. The proportion of the bran as well, the outer part of the grain, is higher, so we get more fiber and more fatty acids than in standard bread wheat. As well, very interesting characteristics is the content of lutein. Lutein is of the family of carotenoids. It's a pigment, a natural pigment, that gives a very yellow color to the flour, to the grain, and to the flour. So we have 10 times more lutein than in a standard bread wheat, and actually you will see it on the finished product. If we speak about pathologies linked to gluten, I think I have nothing to teach you today on that. But we are really, with Tritordeum, we are targeting any type of consumer, because it's not about trying to find a solution for people that have a non-celiac gluten intolerance. Although we have some of the customers of the bakers that work with Tritordeum today, some that claim to have this non-gluten intolerance, say that when they eat Tritordeum, they feel better. Or even some customers manage to restart eating bread that they left the bread, they started with gluten-free, and they restart eating gluten-containing bread made of Tritordeum. And this was really something interesting, and that's why we are now focusing a lot our research in this area. I could let you know at the end what we are doing. So we have made a lot of tests, biochemical tests, measuring basically the amount of gluten using the method which is recognized by the Codex Alimentarius, which some of you might know, the ELISA R5 sandwich kit, which was developed actually to measure gluten, to detect the amount of gluten in gluten-free products. So if we use the same kit and we measure the amount of those peptides, because remember, we are measuring only the presence of about 10 peptides on a range of 150 peptides, because gluten has more or less 150 peptides, we are measuring only 10 of them. So when we say that a product is gluten-free, actually it doesn't mean that it doesn't contain gluten, it means that it has a very, very low amount of those specific peptides which are causing the intolerance. So we made measures on flour, on sourdough made with the flours, and on bread combining the sourdough and the flour. What's interesting to see is that there is a synergistic effect in the reduction of those peptides causing intolerance. You see a drastic reduction, about 70%. So there are several reasons for this, but again, I cannot enter into details today. So we have made 2 in vivo tests, one in 2015 and one in 2016. Actually, we are right now publishing the first test. So I cannot show you clear results today because it's not yet published. But what we have done basically, oops, there's something wrong with the slide. What we have done is we have, with a collaboration of a hospital in León in Spain that is specialized in gluten intolerances and that have panels of people that are, let's say, normal people, people that are intolerant, but intolerant non-celiac people and celiac people. So the celiacs, we don't look at them because we cannot give them Tritordeum to eat, obviously. But we first made the test on the normal people, but those normal people have one member of their family that is a celiac. So they are used already to have in their diet bread containing gluten and bread without gluten. Okay? So it's important for them to have this habit. And we gave them a 40 days diet, starting with the bread made with wheat, then a gluten-free diet, then a diet with Tritordeum, and then coming back to wheat. And we measured the amount of immunogenic peptides with the famous ELISA R5 test in their feces, which are collected every day, and we measure the amount of indigestible peptides, and we observed a drastic reduction. I cannot show you the graph again because I cannot present all the results, but what we observed biochemically really was clear as well in the physiology, in the measurements that we have done in this test. So from this first trial, we went showing that people can eat a Tritordeum, there's no problem, obviously it's already commercialized and there's no issue in that, but it was important to start with this first test to then move to the second trial where we give actually Tritordeum bread to people that are sensible to gluten but non-celiac, but they have the same symptoms as people that are celiac, and this is something that is measurable, even though it's not an immunogenic response, okay? But they have very severe symptoms when they eat gluten-containing products. So out of this second trial, what was really interesting, so in this second trial we have actually a diet based on 10 days without gluten and then 10 days with Tritordeum. All the patients could finish the test, which is already promising, and we observed as well, looking at the microflora, actually, looking at how the consumption of Tritordeum could affect your microflora. We have some very interesting results, contrasting as well with a bread wheat, for example, a bread where as well the microflora is different from someone eating Tritordeum. So all these results hopefully are going to be published in the coming months. So jumping from nutritional aspects to the value chain. So Agrasys basically is what we are doing is mounting value chains to sell our grain, our cereal. So what we do is that we have a licensing system with grain producers and with millers in order to keep control over the crop, to keep full traceability, because we can really trace from the seed all the way to the flour our product. And the license is nothing more than a contract that will guarantee the repurchasing of 100% of the production, that will guarantee a fixed price for the millers. I think we are probably the only cereal that has fixed price all year long on our crop. And we as well guarantee fixed price to the bakers. So we have a contract with the miller that defines at which price they buy the grain, at which price they sell the flours. Obviously, it's not allowed to set prices in the market, but we give indicative prices. But usually our millers, they follow this rule, and like this we avoid things like competition. We actually try to create a group of millers and producers to promote the cereal all together. So we try to avoid a bit the competitive system that exists in other crops. But then the millers can sell their flour to any consumer, any customer. The customer will not need a license to make a product made of Tritordeum. So if we try to position a bit Tritordeum compared to other cereals, of course this is one way to see it, but it could be done in many other ways. What I try to do here is to position, looking at the price of the flour, of a typical refined flour. So here prices are in euros, not in pounds per kilo, and as well I put on the other axis how easy it is to bake this flour, actually 100%. Because one nice characteristic of Tritordeum is that it can be baked 100%. You don't need to mix it with other cereals to get a fairly good bread or fairly good product. So obviously Tritordeum is more expensive than bread wheat, because for the price of bread wheat you can buy bread wheat. And with all the technology behind and the value chain that we are mounting, our cereal is more expensive. As well, the yields are lower than standard wheat, so all these factors explain the price. But we try to position ourselves in the range of spelt. In the case of spelt, prices are very volatile, as you might have known in the last years. And with Tritordeum we are trying actually to avoid this volatility. We are trying to avoid a lack of stock, for example, like it is in the case of Kamut, where people had a lot of problems with disponibility of grain, availability of grain. And we try to be at a price which allows artisans as well as industrials to start working with this crop. I think for me this is the most important point of all, because you could have the best product in the world. If it doesn't taste good, if it doesn't look good, you won't sell it. I think this is where we have really a unique selling proposition, is that our product tastes and looks different. Do you need Tritordeum in your diet? No. Do you need spelt today in your diet? Absolutely not. But today consumers they like to have a variety in their diet, and they are consuming not only wheat but other crops, other cereals, other seeds, and I think all the launches that have been done in our industry in the last years are showing that people like to try new things. I think we have the only new cereal in the market for a very long time, so for me it is really a breakthrough innovation. That's why I like this project, because we have something that nobody else has, and it can offer really a wide range of products. Anything you can imagine to do with wheat, you can do it with Tritordeum as well. It behaves really well in baking. It has a very, like you can say, a very yellow color. The crumb texture as well is different, because the gluten structure is different, so we have a very short bite structure. We have a slightly sweet taste because we have more free sugars in Tritordeum. We have a bit more caramelization of the crust, so it's different. But it's not so different that some consumers would not like it, you know. So, but I let you again judge of that, if you like it or not, by trying the products later. So what we did really in the last couple of years is not only producing flowers, because okay, with flowers you can do many things, but we are trying to diversify a bit the range of products that we have. So we worked on flakes, we worked on sourdoughs actually, we worked on toasted flours, we worked on pre-gel flours. We have a lot of different projects involving different companies in Europe to develop a wide range of ingredients. The main application today is bread, but we have as well other applications. For instance, beer. We can malt the grain of Tritordeum and we can make beer out of it. We can produce, due to the vitrosity of the grain, we can produce semola, fine semola, to make pasta. For instance, our Italian partners, they are selling Tritordeum mainly in pasta, in pizza making and in beer. So we are looking always for new applications. In terms of declaration, so it's very important the aspect of the gluten, because today end consumers, they don't know what Tritordeum is. So when they see in the declaration Tritordeum, someone that is celiac might not know that it contains gluten. So it's mandatory to put gluten. We asked EFSA, they recommend to explain what is Tritordeum. You're not obliged to do it, but they recommend it, and we usually recommend it as well to our customers. In terms of nutritional claims, if we look strictly at the flour base, we have a source of fiber. We are above the 4 grams per 100 grams, 3 grams, sorry, per 100 grams of fiber. But again, if you want to have a clear claim on your finished products, you have to look at the nutritional values of the finished products. What we cannot say, EFSA does not allow any claim on a more digestible gluten or, Today it's either with gluten or without gluten. I think they even removed recently the reduced in gluten or low in gluten. There are no claims. There are no EFSA claims allowing us to say it's more digestible. That's why today we have a clear difference between our scientific communication, because we have evidences that show that Tritordeum might be more digestible, and the marketing communication, where we have to recommend to our customers not to say this kind of things. Also, it's a shame about the lutein. The lutein is it's one of the most sold products in the US, because there are many studies showing that lutein has a positive effect on our eyesight, because it's protecting our macula from the sun rays, from the degeneration occurring from the sun rays. So there are a lot of studies, there are a lot of dossiers already in the hands of EFSA, but there is no claim allowed today on lutein. Maybe it will come, but today we cannot say anything about lutein. So, to make a summary a bit of Tritordeum, I didn't speak so much about the agronomy. There's a lot of things to say actually on that part. What we see that it's a very clean crop, it's very robust crop, so we don't need so much fertilizers in conventional farming, and it's really adapted to organic farming. Actually, to give you an idea, we have today 50% of our production which is conventional and 50% organic. Last year we had only 10% of organic. So the organic is really growing a lot in Europe, and the demand for organic Tritordeum even more. So we have very good resistance. It's not a Ferrari in terms of yield, but it behaves very constantly every year. And actually farmers are looking for this good results every year. They're not necessarily looking for the best crops in terms of resistance. Our value chain, I would say, is quite unique. We have full control from the seed all the way to the flower. We have a fair pricing for everyone, and this was really the base in order to start such a project, because there was no demand for Tritordeum in the market, so we had to convince everyone to go for it. You know, so we set very fair prices for all the actors, and we have a trademark. We are, I think, the only cereal with a team behind really supporting the promotion of Tritordeum. And in terms of health, we can speak about the fibers, the oleic acid, the lutein, and the gluten. But again, I think those aspects might be interesting for part of the consumers, but we don't want to have, it's not our aim today to have a health claim. Actually, they are, as you have seen, taking out most of the health claims. There are very few left. And it's not our aim to have any studies to get a health claim. But okay, we have clear evidences showing that Tritordeum might be suitable for people with non-celiac gluten intolerance. And I think it's a very innovative product. Hopefully, some of you will be interested to give it a try and make an opinion for yourself. So thank you for your time.
Etienne, thank you very much indeed. We will take a slightly later break, and I will ask you all in a moment, please, if you could return at 11:45, so that we can continue then. But before we go through for our break and sample Etienne's products, do you have any questions for him? Andy.
Very interesting to hear about. We've done a lot of work in our stores expanding our gluten-free range over the last 2 years. My question is, how would this be marketed to consumers? Because I don't think customers would understand that brand name.
No.
What is the selling points of that? How, if I was to produce a loaf of that using that product, how would I sell that to my customers?
Yeah. actually, as you can tell, the people that decided about the brand name were not coming from the marketing. They were scientists. And actually, they created the name taking the trit from triticum and the ordeum from the Latin names. No? Today, most of our customers, they use the brand name Tritordeum. Everyone says first, that's a horrible name, it will never sell, people will not like it. But actually, experience has shown that consumers get used to the name, and actually they remember it. It's a strange name that is remembered. Now, in terms of labeling, the most used point to sell the product, actually, it's the fact that it's a new cereal, which is not wheat. You know, that's the most selling point. Some people speak about fiber when they have a claim in their finished product about fiber, but the most selling point is about the fact that it's a new cereal, because it's for them it's enough to create a new range of products. Actually, right now, this year, right now in the last weeks, we started our first first marketing campaign in Spain, which is called, like the first slide that you saw, More Than a Cereal, where we explain to end consumers this time, we explain all the important aspects of our cereal. So we speak about the origin, we speak about the traceability with the mill, we speak about innovation, showing that young bakers now are looking for new things in the market. We speak about nutritional aspect, but not focusing only on the nutritional aspect. If your question is there any claim nutritionally that I can use to be different from other cereals? The answer is no, because we don't have any health claim, as I said. And nutritional claim, if you have fiber, okay, you can use it, but the fiber claim is overused, and it's not something that would make Tritordeum different. And I would say there are much cheaper alternatives to get fiber in your product than Tritordeum. Really, what our consumers use today is the fact that it's a novelty, it's innovation. That's what they use first. I don't know if it answers your question.
I think customers will still struggle with that brand name.
Yeah, well, everyone says that, but again, experience has shown that they get used to it. They get used to it. Even we have some customers that create a brand name of a product with Tritordeum. But the issue is that when you create a second name, then people are saying, okay, this is Tritordeum, but what is Tritordeum? At the end, you need to explain what is Tritordeum. That's why it's always better to go for Tritordeum first. But, yeah, so.
Any other quick questions? Can I just very quickly, while the mic's going there, have you had any reaction to the colour?
Actually, usually there are good reactions. Sometimes some customers said it's too yellow, because of course we are not used, especially in the north of Europe, I would say, end consumers are not used to see this golden color. In our case in Spain or in Italy, for example, where there's a lot of consumption of durum wheat, it's not an issue. In the south of France as well. But in the northern countries, sometimes, yeah, people say, "Oof, this might be too yellow for our customers." But I have other examples of customers, for example, in Denmark or in Scandinavian countries, that they are not used at all to this color, and actually their customers love it because it's different, because it looks different. You know, today, for instance, I always take the example of spelt, which is modern spelt, which is really a sub-variety of wheat, because it has been bred so many times with bred wheat. It looks very much like wheat in bread. Consumers have difficulties to understand that this is another cereal and that it is different, you know. But when they see a different color and when they taste that it tastes different, usually it's enough for them.
Thank you. One quick last question.
Yes, hello, I'm Linda from Chopin Technology from France. I will ask you my question in English.
Another French.
So I just would like to know, do you have any idea of your market share in Spain and Italy?
Oof, that's
just an idea to know.
Very small. I mean, if we look, no, but let's be honest. I can give you clear numbers. We are cultivating every year around 1,500 hectares of Tritordeum. Okay. Today, the cultivation is fully in line with the sales. because obviously, as I said in our model, we are rebuying the total harvest. So we have to financially support the repurchase of the harvest. So we are going in line with how much we are selling, but we have no limitation on farming. The only limitation we have is commercially. So we have yields in conventional between 3 to 6 tons per hectare of Tritordeum, of conventional. For example, in the south of Italy, in the north of Italy, that's where we have the best yields, up to 6 tons. In Spain, we are between 3 and 4 tons. And in organic, we have yields which are much smaller, between 1 and 2.5 tons. So yields are lower than standard bread wheat. But really, the main difficulty is the commercial one, because growing it is not a problem.
Etienne, thank you very much.